Hi everyone, my name is Lars Jacobsson and I'm an expert advisor to European Energy Commission when it comes to energy storage and the transition away from fossil fuels. My background is from oil and gas and during the last 15 years I have been working with renewable energy with focus on energy storage. Some things that we need to understand in the difference between energy storage and renewable energy storage is the fact that the fossil fuel storage needs to be done before the energy is produced. Like you could see earlier on the oil tank, and on this picture you can see a pile of wood. It's an easy way to understand the need of energy storage. The difference is that when it comes to energy storage from renewable energy, we need to store it after it's produced. And looking at wind and solar, we know that we need to capture the energy produced when the wind is blowing or when the sun is shining, to store it and to distribute it. We have some distribution problems to solve, and it is a distribution problem when it comes to renewable energy. We all know when there is no wind, we have no energy, and when there is no sun, we have no energy. And another problem is when we see an enormous amount of wind, we don't get any incomes, and when we see no wind, we don't get any income. So it's a complex problem that will be growing in size when we are increasing the amount of energy into the grid, renewable energy into the grid. Looking at solar, it's easier than wind. If you look, for example, on California, a mature solar energy market, we can see during the day demand, during the 24 hours, that the demand of energy increases when we're waking up in the morning, and it's definitely we have the high demand peak during the dark hours or late afternoon hours when we are getting home, we are charging our electric car, and we are cooking our food, etc., etc. But unfortunately, the solar energy production has a peak during midday. And today we can see a lot of wasted energy in solar-rich areas like California. And when we are having a huge amount of energy production midday, we will also see the prices drop. And we can see negative prices in solar, and we can also see negative energy prices on wind in Europe today when we have a lot of wind and a lot of wind, of course. And the thing is that we need to find a solution. And as I said before, this problem is increasing at the same time as we are increasing the amount of renewable energy in the grid. So, as said before, this is a distribution problem. We need basically to take the energy midday peak production and distribute the energy to the demand hours. It's simple like that. But we also need to find the right kind of solutions to be able to do this. And we have different solutions for different purposes. We need to understand more about energy storage to be able to solve the problem. We need to understand also when we are looking at the problem and the different technologies in the market, do we have a problem with the specific technology out from a financial perspective? Do we have a problem out of a technical perspective? Or do we have a problem out of a climate perspective? I mean, we all know that keep on producing energy with fossil fuels will create and increase the climate perspective problem that we are facing today. We also need to understand that different technologies will increase the problem when it comes to resources. We can't keep on consuming our planet's resources. We can't replace one problem with a new problem. Even though we can see today that CO2 and the climate problem is a huge problem, we also need to understand that we can't entering into new problems, killing maybe the biodiversity by harvesting minerals from the oceans or cutting down our rainforests. So we need to find solutions to secure our resources for the future generations. And we also need to remember that the resources are geographically spread. In some regions there are a lot of resources, and some countries have more supply of those resources than other countries. So we need to make sure that we are not creating a huge global problem by not making sure that all the countries on our planet have the access to this kind of resources needed for these transitions. But what is the solution? We need to understand there are a few different issues to think about when we are adding more renewable energy and we're adding more energy storage into the grid. We need to consider the reaction time, we need to consider capacity of energy storage, the amount of energy storage we need, and the storage time. For how long do we need to store the energy? We have produced this little graph to understand a little bit more when it comes to the existing technologies today that we can use to start replacing fossil fuels. When we are putting in solar or wind into the grid, the first problem we face is maybe if you have solar installations, we have a cloud coming in and the energy production is dropping. We need something with a fast reaction time that can respond and make sure that we are not dropping the capacity in the grid. There are technologies like flywheels, for example. It's a technology that stands by all the time, that are able to increase the amount of energy into the grid. And we can see today more and more electric batteries entering the market. When we are increasing the amount of renewable energy, we need maybe 15 minutes, we need 1 hour, we need 2 hours of energy storage. This is problems that we are solving today with existing technologies like lithium-ion batteries. We can see new technologies coming up in this, call it electric battery sector, like flow batteries and few other different technologies coming up. Once again, we need to make sure that we are in the future putting enough R&D fundings into R&D to make sure that we're getting new technologies that are not consuming our planet's resources. There are other technologies existing today like compressed air to be able to solve the little bit larger amounts of energy storage need and even longer duration. And we have pumped hydro, which is a fantastic solution if we have access to dams or to lakes or whatever needed to be able to pump hydro. Unfortunately, not a technology that is capable of supporting all the geographic markets. And today we see a lot of production of hydrogen for longer duration storage and also seasonal storage. We can see methane gas, etc., etc. So we do have different technologies that is coming up that will be able to solve the problems. Unfortunately, not always as cheap as we would like to, and maybe not, as I mentioned before, as sustainable as we would like to. I would say that we will see in the future a huge increase of thermal energy storage into the market, because the thermal energy storage is pretty cheap, it's pretty easy, and it will also be able to cover a large area of demand in the future energy storage and energy market. We have to remember that about 50% of all energy demand in Europe, for example, is thermal energy. So we need to avoid talking too much about electricity and talk more about energy. We have different technologies that are covering different purposes. And I think it's important for all of us politicians, decision makers, to make sure that we understand energy storage much better. We need to understand not only the problem we are facing today, but also the problems that we face tomorrow. We need to avoid technologies that keep on consuming our planet's resources. Or in other words, we need to create circular technologies. We will still need rare earth minerals, we need minerals, but we can't keep on consuming them for coming generations. We need to be able to make this happen. We need to mobilize governmental fundings to increase R&D in all phases. We need to make sure that we are doing this transition as fast as possible. To do that as fast as possible, we need to support R&D, and we also need to make sure that we are avoiding technologies that are maybe already up and running, but they are waiting to become commercialized. Some of those technologies end up in the valley of the death, and funding is extremely important to overcome these problems. And we need, of course, to make sure that the minerals are available for everyone in the market. All geographic countries all around the world needs to be able to utilize the minerals and have access to minerals to make sure that we are doing this transition in a peaceful way. We have to remember that we have, during the last 150 years, seen a number of wars on our planet because of fossil fuels. But we can't see a future where we are creating those problems with new technology. That's why I keep on repeating, we can't consume our planet's resources, we need to create circular technologies, and we need to support the transition, because as we all can see, it's happening fast, and it's happening now. Thank you everyone for this opportunity. Thank you, bye.